Okay, if I'm not a total boomer, then we're live. Yes, we are.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. Number one Marmaduke fan here, and I am joined by Claylex, the
Hello.
creator of Clayman. Say hi to everybody.
Hello, everybody.
All right, so I got Clayman in the mail a week or two ago. Read it, and I really enjoyed
Uh,
it. So
Thank you very much.
you are welcome. So Claylex, for people who haven't encountered Clayman before, maybe this stream is their introduction. Tell us a little bit about, who is Clayman and why is this such a cool comic? Why should they check it out?
Okay. So Clayman, it takes place around 100 years in our future in Fatorka, Wisconsin. So a fictional city in Wisconsin. It features 16-year-old Bobby Rob Radish, who was just like any other kind of high school kid, just had a normal life. He has great folks, a great brother, but who's are his foster family. But anyways, with that, he's having a good life. And then until like he basically gets bombarded with a mutagen wave gas bomb, and then spreads all over the city. Mutants are coming in, criminals from the Underdark are coming out too, and now he's got these powers, and he's got to get going and kick these guys' butts, if you know what I mean.
Nice. How long have you been working on this character?
I've been working on it since 2018. I always love to tell this story about the conception of him. I was like working out in my house's basement, working up a good sweat, and then like I realized, oh shoot, my friends are making comics, and then I'm like, I need to make a comic of my own and try to make a character that I feel like will get people's attention. So I'm like, it took me about a couple months. I wrote down all the text, got the references, got a friend to do the first design, Panzer, and I got the first design out, and I was like, oh, this looks great, exactly what I wanted, you know.
And something I'm going to go ahead and share my
Yeah.
screen so that people can get a little sneak peek of it. So we're looking at the you've pages of the first issue to Tops.io. So like one thing that really stands out to me is it's a really great design. Like something like I always hear people talking about is how they love Spider-Man's eyes in the comics because the artist can use Spider-Man's eyes to give him a lot of expressions. And you've given your character like really expressive eyes and a really expressive face. So tell me a little bit about like what did it take to design this character? Was there back and forth between you and your artist about maybe like tweaking the details? How much of it was like your artist ideas? How much of it was your ideas?
I got you. So basically, it was all around of I call it trial and error. The first design, I let my artist do whatever he wanted with it, and then like I, especially the torso and the leggings were like, they're okay. And then like I mean, because his arms were like freaking Twizzlers at that point, but it was still funny. But the second design, you know that the hooded design, I won that design from a contest with my friend Jacob, who is like my future artist for another comic I'm doing. So kudos to my luck for that, you know. And then the third design, well, it's like yeah. And then we went back and forth. I went back and forth with artists. Then it finally, when I was taking my one shot, I wanted to do my friend Sonny, who's like the artist with Tom and Artie. Like I was like, okay, I'll let you go to town with this design, see how you do with him. And then originally, yeah, when I did the hooded design, I said to myself, the eyes and mouth don't move. But then like with the main suit that you see in the one shot, yeah, his eyes move, but his mouth doesn't. But again, I didn't finalize it even with the one shot. So Sonny went to town with like how he moved his mouth. So but then like I looked into it, and especially with like when she did the other pages, I'm like, no, this is really good. I'll let her do the mouth thing. But yeah, like in future stuff, no, yeah, his mouth just doesn't move, his eyes don't move when like he has the hooded suit.
That's really interesting because I've seen artists do things like sales of designs and things, and this is actually probably the first time I've seen a writer who's used a design that's kind of like I guess you've adopted, right?
Yeah.
And then there was like a tweaking process as well. One thing that really stood out to me in the first issue is that Clayman has flaws, right? Like he wants to be a superhero. He seems like he's a pretty good fighter, but when his very first big entrance in his introduction, I'll go ahead and scroll to it. Like he jumps up in the air, makes his announcement, his foot bonks into the shelf.
Like fun fact, this was actually the first page me and Sonny wanted to I said, look, we got to do this as the first page, or more like I call it the promotional page, where something, you can quote me on this, I don't mind. It's like I call it promo pages where, this is the page we should work on to get people's hype in for the comic, and people really like page 4, so I was like, okay, this is good. We'll keep going with this, and then we'll start from the beginning to the end. But again, I'm very happy people liked page 4. I was like, oh man, is there more of this? And I'm like, yeah, we're working on it. So that was a really good idea for this one. And to be clear too, this is just a one shot. This isn't issue 1. Issue 1 is being worked on. Okay. Me and Ivan are working on page 8 at the moment. It's very, very good. I've seen the sketch already for page 8. I'm like, oh, it is so freaking good. I especially love panel 2, what he's doing with that, because he's so dynamic with his work.
So you mentioned Ivan. Tell us a little bit about kind of like the people you've worked with on Clayman. Do you have...
Sure. I could try my best with it. Yeah. So I worked with a good friend named Panzer. Unfortunately, he's not really doing much anymore. Kind of went off in his own thing, but he's okay now. My friend Jacob is working on his own webcomic called The Good Blood, but he doesn't mind in the future to work with me on the comic books ideas that I want to do. I've already gotten some characters worked off for him. I already got a title, all that other stuff for him. And Jacob does really, really good work. And then, like I said, I won the hooded design from a contest he did, and some other commissions I got from him regarding Clayman. But yeah, he was definitely the first stone to like, okay, we're getting a good design in. So, and then I worked with Sunny again for the hooded design. That one was really good. Again, I really liked that one. She kind of did her own thing with it. And then I went to my friend Christian Rossi, who works at Alterna and does Voidwalker. Yeah, I got him to do one for Clay, and I was like, yeah, this is perfect. And then I tried to get him to do Clayman, actually. But it was like, oh, I'm very busy because, he's got the Half-Life comic and he's got Voidwalker to do. So it's like, oh, darn, I got to. So then I went back to the grindstone looking for my artist. And then I saw Ivan, he was only at 500 followers on Twitter. I'm like, okay, I'll look through him, and I'm like, okay, this guy is going to be my artist. And, lo and behold, he is. Like, he's doing work. He's now up to around almost 4,000 followers, and he's working on X-Men. So, it's good positivity for me and him,
Fantastic. So what's interesting to me is you're a creator who you're having to bring together, lots of different people.
I have to bring the Avengers. Yeah, I'm in the Avengers.
So I think a lot of people might be interested in that, right? Like, especially creatives. I think a lot of creatives tend to be kind of like maybe more lonely, isolated people. So talk a little bit about like what have you learned from working with different people? How do you manage them? How do you communicate to them about what needs to be done? How do you make decisions about what artist is the right fit for what you're trying to do?
I think that's a good question in terms of how an artist should fit the comic. I think it all depends on either the early work they did, obviously the style that they themselves are doing. Maybe they do horror, maybe they do superheroes, maybe they do dynamic action. You just got to kind of fit the pieces in there in with that and be like, okay, I think this guy or girl will fit into my comic book. And in terms of how I get it all together, usually I just we just email back and forth, especially with me and Ivan. That's a really good system. Sometimes we just DM each other, some of my other people I worked with, I use Upwork when I talk to Sunny. Upwork is really, really good in terms of international people when you want to go back and forth and then see oh, this is how you to get it to work and all that other stuff.
Another thing that stood out, I guess this is kind of going back to page 4, the page that kind of stood out to a lot of people. Another interesting trait is you're writing a superhero character. And for most superhero characters, when I look at them, I think, oh, it's just like Marvel, it's just like DC. But you're really clearly doing your own thing. You've got like the hyena girl, you've got like the little plant monster and the giant robot with the torn out jacket.
They're basically in a teen gang. They're basically a teen gang. But yeah, like when you say those questions, all right. So regarding going originality, I am surprised people have said that, because I have like taken some little bit of cool factors from other stuff. Like I used Spider-Man, Batman Beyond, the Max, Deku from My Hero Academia in terms of like Clayman's costume design, especially the smiling mask. That one I really liked, and I'm glad people like that. Regarding 2, is that like I'm happy people like these one-shot villains, and I think if people ask like, oh, are they going to make an appearance later in Clayman's main series, I'd be like, yes, they will. Well, nice. Would I have, if someone asks like if I had the money to like, oh, would I have Ivan like design these characters? I mean, funny enough, I always ask myself, should I make a kind of remake but have Ivan draw and color this? And I'm like, I would like to, but at the same time, of course, that make it clear that Sonny did it first. Sonny's version will always be cool, just like a cool alternative if people wanted that, you know.
And to clarify, is Sonny the artist for the Clayman one shot?
Yes, Sonny is the artist and colorist, and I keep saying she is one of the best colorists in our indie industry so far.
Yeah, it's got a very it has its own feel. Like your world isn't a copy of Marvel or DC. You're clearly doing your own thing, and I appreciate that. Something that struck me is earlier you said you were like working out and you just thought, my friends are creating comics, I ought to create a comic and get it out there. Which is,
I just stood up, all the sweat pouring down me, and I'm like, it's like that thing where like, you wake up in the middle of the night, cold sweat, and you're like, because like, maybe like specific job that allows you on the computer or something like that, go in the work environment, you're like, oh, I can work now, I could do this, you know? It's like, that's what I felt.
So would you describe your writing process as more, I've got a big idea, I'll make it happen, and I already know what it's going to be? Or is it more, you got to work and, fudge the details? Oh, maybe I'll try this, maybe I'll try this, or maybe a mix of it? Like, how do you write?
Yeah, good question. Again, like this is like, I would say it's a mix, because it just reminds me, I just finished a script, because my friend Nicholas, like we did the crossover comic for Demon Hunter Raven. God, we finished up part 1. We almost finished up with part 2. I did just finish up basically part 3, because he gave me the idea for it. And he's like, because like, a friend said we should do like this thing. I'm like, I got you, bro. I'll write the script out. And I just finished that in about a day, and now I just like gave it to Nicholas. Be like, all right, just see how this goes. You do your editing, because he's kind of co-writing it, and then I'll get my editor to work on it, and then we'll see how that goes, you know.
Nicholas and Demon Hunter Raven, that was included in the print edition of the first of the one shot.
For people who like the combined comic, yes.
Something I like about that is both of you strike me as, like, one of the things that strikes me about indie comics is usually one person, even if they're working with a team of artists or other creatives, one person has to make it happen. And that was something that struck me about Demon Hunter Raven, was there was a lot of passion behind the project. And then for you, that struck me. And I actually I really like seeing indie comic artists have crossovers and collaborations, because it's introducing the characters to more people. So like, how'd you meet Nick? How did the
Demon Hunter Raven I love this story too, man. I love to talk about this one too. To me, it was kind of like a spur of the moment ordeal. I saw his comic, and I was like, oh, this looks kind of cool. So I gave it a chance. It's like, oh, I liked it. And then I kept kind of doing my thing. Nicholas saw mine, and he was so interested. He's like, dude, we got to make something together. It's like, please. And I'm like, okay, we will. And I think the biggest one, fan factor with it, was that Nicholas offered to draw, color, and letter the whole thing absolutely free, and I didn't have to pay him. And I'm like, you sure, man? Because I'm like, I don't want to, cut you out of a bad deal. It's like, no, it's fine. We'll get this to work. And so like I wrote the script. He absolutely loved it. Kind of did fame, like we edited it, and then after that it was just kind of like the rest said and done. Like we just kind of work together. We support each other for our thing, and well, now we're almost finished with part 2, and then we got something cooking up with that coming in the fall. So that's gonna be good.
So maybe I should mention where people can find you. So you're on Twitter, you're on Patreon.
Yep.
You used Kickstarter for the one shot.
I used Indiegogo, actually.
Indiegogo. Okay.
I'm going to use Kickstarter for like the next one. I call it the Second Chance Kickstarter for people who missed out. But that one's going to have more stuff because actually, and just saying, we just got a sticker out. My good friend Cardman got that out. My printer, Matthew, aka Skinny, is getting that. And then like I think like he's just about to, I think, pay off and then like get the sticker sent out to him. And I'll say like the first 50 backers who back us will be getting a sticker. Nice. I don't think like so probably be like maybe like a kind of almost a kind of a half freebie deal, but also like, oh, you have to be one of the first 50 or you can't get it. Sorry.
Yeah.
So
I'm kind of interested. So do you have any thoughts on Indiegogo versus Kickstarter? I've seen some creators.
Yeah, I talked about
both.
this. Yeah, I talked about this with Will's channel. So I think like between Indiegogo and Kickstarter has the obvious like, oh, you can extend past the 30-minute deadline. That definitely gives you more time to like, oh, if you have to do more extended goals and might want to like update more people, help out more if you have any issues with that kind of thing. With Kickstarter, I think it's more, I could be wrong, it could be more easier to like set things up and all that, but granted, you only got the 30 days, so if you don't well actually you do have the 30 days, but if like you want to set it up, you can extend it more to I think about 60 or 90, but I think that's about it. But then like other than that, I think like between my setup with Indiegogo and Kickstarter and I am setting up the Kickstarter, but I want to obviously wait till everyone gets their books because I'm not like an ass like that, but after that, between like I said, between Indiegogo and Kickstarter was kind of more easier to set up.
Will the Kickstarter include issue 1 as well as the one shot, or is it just going to be for the one shot?
Again, Will asked me that, and again, I can answer that perfectly. Right now, I would say no. It will not have. I'll unfortunately have not enough time to get the first issue out. Because right now only around 7 pages have been done, just the comic. Because I gotta wait till all the art pages are done, and then I'll get my letterer. I'll pay my letterer to put down the logo and the lettering, and then after that, then the book should be done. But I'll be honest and say I have no clue when issue 1 will be finished, unfortunately.
Okay, and that's probably wise because I've seen so many like tragic stories of people who funded and then they couldn't get the book done. And it seems to me you've kind of
totally.
You've been smart enough to like do the prep work before you do the funding. Yeah.
Yeah. And people have said they're okay with me doing this. So I'm like, hey, if you guys want a second chance to get the book, now's your chance, and and obviously like, I don't want to like, cause I know Ivan is very busy with, again, doing X-Men, like working for Marvel. So I kind of like, we kind of juggle between, okay, this will work now, and basically our time crunches and stuff like that.
It's really cool that you found an artist who's now working for Marvel, kind of like.
I know, like he worked his ass off. Yeah, he worked his ass off to like, and I said like, look, Marvel, hire this man. He works his ass off. He wants to work for you. Like he's done like test pages for like Spider-Man and X-Men and Avengers and all this other stuff. I'm like, you still haven't hired this guy yet? And I'm like, come on.
That's so cool. So how much of Clayman have you planned out? Do you have like the first story arc done? Do you have like a multi-season epic adventure planned out? Like what can we expect in the future?
Yeah, as far as if I did it like in parts, currently Clayman has like 5 parts, with 1 being the beginning part and 5 being kind of the end part. And right now I have about maybe issues 1 to 7 done. So basically, in manga terms, the first arc is done. It's done script wise. I think about it's about done. Maybe like I'll have my assistant editor look through issues. Let's see, issues 2 to 7 once. But I'll let him look through it after issue 1 is done. So just in case, make sure all the writing and the grammar stuff is basically perfect. Like what he and I said to each other, we'll perfect the script, make sure there's no errors and stuff like that. I mean, and again, I'm happy too, because just like when my editor Mercy, he loves the scripts, he loves my writing. Well, he did check my second script for free. He didn't edit it, but he said like, yeah, man, it's night and day how much your writing changed compared to issue 1. And I'm like, it's like, yeah, thanks, man. Like, people keep saying it. People keep saying like you completely changed when you went to issue 2, and I'm like, I just research and make sure I'm typing it in right every time I write my script. So it is what it is.
Improving by doing. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
That's so cool. So I had a question about. So you've mentioned some of the Ivan and some of the artists you're working with currently. I'm gonna do this screen share again if I can. Yeah. Let's see if I know what I'm doing. So sorry for the boomer moment. All right, here we go. So talk about, tell me a little bit about the creatives for the one shot. So Chun-Lin Zhao, Micah Myers, and Jared Bollinger. Will we see them return on future issues, or are they just appearing on the one shot? Like what did everybody do, and like how'd you meet them?
As far as okay, so start with their origins. Like I said, so Sunny and I worked a bit on like doing some pics for Clayman. But then she did the one shot for me.
And Sunny's Chun-Lin Zhao, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah.
And after that, it was like, after that, I was trying to figure out what else I could do, like with her talent. So I was like, okay, I got this comic that's like kind of a funny parody action sci-fi comic called Pony Warriors. I'm like, I need to find somebody that could do that style. And I'm like, okay, I'll get Sunny to do that. And then like she got most of the main character designs done. So I'm like, okay, that's cool. And I think I got that one shot done, and I'm hoping I get that done before I do issue 2, like I did with Clayman. And like I said, the rest is kind of history. If I had more money, yes, I would be working on it right now with Pony Warriors. But for now, I only got enough to work with Ivan for Clayman and stuff.
Okay.
So back to with Micah, I think this will be the only let's see. I don't think I'll work with him, but like he still does great lettering, so at least like I can recommend people if they want to get logos or lettering done, then work with him. But yeah, like I told people, the logo for Clayman is gonna be changed, and I'm probably gonna get like a guy solely to work on Clayman. I think his name was Taylor Esposito. Sorry if I butchered his last name. He's a New Jersey man like me. He's got his own I think kind of almost lettering school, so he's very, very professional. But he wants to work with me, so I guess I'm lucky again. So you're
just finding cool people all over.
I know, right? I'm like, and someone asked me on Twitter, it's like, how do you find these people? I'm like, I just look, it's not that hard if you really look into it. But yeah, Jared is like, me and him are like tight. We're probably going to work for probably the rest of our comic lives career. He's actually working on his own comic too, but he still has time to edit my stuff. So, there's that.
That's really neat. And what did you mention Jared's comic earlier already?
Yeah, I think like I can't remember the name of it, but I know it was like a character he's working on called Thorn, like kind of this gargoyle-esque character. Yeah, he's gonna work with that. He also does a bit of like line art, coloring sometimes too, and he even does music. He did actually make the first theme song for Clayman, so that's cool beans.
Yeah.
I kept telling him he was multi-talented, so that's good on his thing. He's trying to like get, I think, a music career going, but he said he'll still have time to do my lettering. So that'd be my editing. So that'd be nice.
Yeah. So I think you mentioned some of your inspirations earlier, and I'm kind of interested in that because you're clearly doing your own thing, right? Mm-hmm. And I tend to notice that people who are doing their own thing, they have things that inspire them. But
yeah.
there maybe if they pull one little idea from one thing or another little idea from another thing, they mix it up to make their own thing. So I'm always kind of interested, even if you do your own thing, I'm still kind of interested in what I call it like the imagination soup. Like what are the ingredients in your imagination soup? What really inspires you? Yeah.
I think like what if we're going like outside the comic book factor, I think what inspired me is like I know my brother and my parents inspire me so much. I don't know if you saw the Wonder interview I did.
I haven't yet, so maybe
that was the most emotional interview I've ever had, because I described like basically I said in a nutshell that like if in the future I'm in a comic workshop thing and I'm talking about how I'm doing my writing, and if I see my parents and my brother, you can see on the stream I broke down. Well, more like in my voice because I didn't have it wasn't the webcam thing, but I literally cried, and it was just highly emotional for me because I realized if everything works out, then I realize I can make money off this, and I'd love to, but I don't want this to poison my judgment, you know? And it's like I realize I just want to make my comic. It's like screw whatever Marvel DC is doing, and like just like I want to make my stuff, you know, and make my family, extended family, my friends proud.
Yeah, and I couldn't help but notice that Clay, you've written a character who he's just exuberant, right? And he even talks about like how his life is great, and he has like a great family, right?
Yeah.
So it just strikes me that you're making a very positive, joyful character, and I feel like a lot of modern writers are scared of that because they say, oh well, if it's a good guy, he's got to have flaws, he's got to have like all of this emotional baggage or trauma or edginess to him, and you're just making like a sincerely good character. It seems to me. So that aspect really strikes me, and trying to think. I lost the train of thought, but I guess I just really appreciate that, right? Like I've said over and over again that something I think about superheroes is they have an element of joy to them. So, and that was something that really struck me about Clayman in the one shot is there is this just a very sincere element of joy throughout it. So I just enjoy that.
Yeah, it's like I wanted to try to. This one, it was like again, I made it clear that like, I don't really want to include any sad moments in this. It's like, look, I just want people to understand this is the core of Clay. Like, okay, yeah, maybe he might get some emotional baggage later or some sad or madman moments. But in the thick of things, this is who he is.
Yeah.
As a person, as a hero, as a character, And I'm like, and I'm happy people, like this. It hasn't like dread away.
Let me think. So tell me a little bit about the future for Clayman. So I know in fall we're going to have a second chance Kickstarter for people who missed the first.
Yeah, either late summer or early fall. I'll try to get the Kickstarter, and the only reason I might have to delay it is because my printer is, I think, probably moving out of state. I think he said, and we got to get like some other awards set up, like book covers and trading cards and stuff like that. That kind of stuff. And I get excited, like, yeah, sure. I even paid a little out of pocket for the stickers, but I don't care. It was like $20 for 50 stickers, like Sticker Mule was like, hell yeah, I got to go for that deal,
Yeah. So was there anything you learned about maybe the nuts and bolts of making a comic, like, getting the printer lined up, getting the mailers lined up? Like, where'd you go to learn to do some of those things? Are there any like tips or tricks you'd share with creators who want to print their own comic?
Yeah, I want to say it like this, is that don't be afraid to ask. Obviously, this I said before. Don't be afraid to ask for help, especially if you garnered an audience. I looked around literally because I'm like, look, at least for the first time, look, I don't want to print this stuff on my own, maybe get a partner to print this kind of stuff, for me. Then I went to my friend Skinny, and he's like, okay, yeah, sure. If you pay me, I could just you send over the stuff. I'll get the sent stuff over to me and I'll send it to them. And I was like, okay, sure. So, he did his business. We worked really well together, aside from a hiccup, but people understood what he delivered in spades, a really great printing delivery experience, He used, but mainly he just used, I think Kablam's printing service to get everything printed. But yeah, I didn't have to worry about the nuts and bolts about, at least in that situation. It's like, look, you don't need to worry about that. Just show the hell out of your comic, get people interested, and then you leave the rest to me. All you got to do is worry about paying me. That's all you got to do. I'm like, okay. It's that's how it goes, So that that's how it went, and that's how it went in. Yeah, Zarif. Yeah, off topic, but with Zarif, he's actually inspired by me to make his own comic. I have at least 4 or 5 other people that are like, I want to make a comic because of you. So I'm like, oh shit. And I'm like, okay, if you want to, that stuff makes me almost cry, because I'm already inspiring people. I'm not even 25 yet.
Yeah, you're rolling. So have you done comics before? Have you done comics before, Clayman, or was this your very first thing?
No, this is my very first thing. I was surprised at how well we got the ball rolling with this.
So you mentioned earlier about how you're having to sell Clayman, which I think for some creatives, that's a different skill set than creating. Creating's, going into your workspace and making the magic happen. But then for salesmanship, I think, politeness is a big part of it. Exuberance is a big part of it. Learning that, some people are busy and they may not have time to look at your comic right now, right? There are a lot of little issues people have to learn. So can you talk about what have you learned about salesmanship for Clayman? Because you are one of the things that stood out to me about Clayman is I never see you getting into stupid YouTube drama fights, right? So that's really helpful.
Believe me, I do not.
Yeah. What have you learned about the salesmanship side?
I think for one thing, especially if you're a social media guy and you're basically the social media manager to your own comic thing, you got to fight the algorithm. The algorithm is fucking garbage on Twitter, especially. So you have to don't be afraid to retweet it, quote retweet your own stuff. And so people will understand, because again, they understand the algorithm is garbage. So because it's hey, as long as you keep doing that, people will see your stuff. It's and sometimes I told myself that sometimes I almost feel like I'm my own worst enemy in terms of supporting, because sometimes it's do I want to support myself, or do I want to support my friends' comic book content too? And then people are like, look, man, you could do both. And I'm yeah, you're right, I can do both. But sometimes I feel it's should I retweet their stuff first or retweet stuff mine? Sometimes it's just it boggles in and out. But at the end of the day, as long as you're doing it, people will see it. Eventually they'll see it. And, realizing, hey, you're so positive with supporting others, I'll help you out too.
Yeah. Do you do any IRL marketing for it? Do you ever make posters or advertisements or anything? Or are you mostly focused on maybe word of mouth, kind of social media advertising?
Yeah, word of mouth social media. Mainly, if I had to say, the closest I had was to, I'm not afraid to say it, my mom keeps talking about Clayman, and that's how my extended family and my friends got their comics. They actually paid for. So that was really nice. But yeah, other than that, I mostly go by social media stuff, marketing, to get my stuff out.
Fantastic. Okay, I just have to ask because I'm dead curious, right?
Mm-hmm.
The blue monster at the end of the one shot, blue kind of the squinty porcupines.
Yeah,
is it a Sanic? Is it a Sanic reference?
It's funny enough, I did not. It was I think I could be wrong. It was a while ago, but when I did this, Sunny was like, "Is this Sonic the Hedgehog?" And I'm like, "I had no idea until she told me." And I'm like, "No, it's not. I just got some random monster off of Google, and then off of ArtStation. And I was like, here, you can use this as a reference."
Okay. It's very different. So well, I guess I'm going to come back to something. So one of the things I really like about Clayman is I'm going to show examples here. It's just like the variety of monsters and creatures, like slime monsters, Cyclops monsters. I feel like this is a missing element of a lot of superhero comics where they want it to feel, quote, real worldy, unquote. And you're more leaning into this like wild, and all kinds of cool stuff is happening in Clayman's world.
That one particular, I think like when me and Sonny were discussing it, or no, it was like it was actually with the lettering phase with it, because I didn't tell Sonny this. I told Micah to say Clay was like there was an alien convention going on. Though, so assuming with these people and whatever, they're more like wearing costumes. But but even then, it's like you got evolved animals, plants, and robots. So like even without the kind of alienish element, it's still very kind of almost weird and bizarre, but almost with this kind of clean, futuristic feel at the same time.
Yeah.
So that's what I kind of like about Clayman, because you can introduce the kind of wild, zany stuff, but also kind of keep it clean almost at the same time with it.
Yeah. So for the one shot, we get our little intro to Clayman. We get the feel for how he fights. I noticed some things like you've even thought about in your fight scenes. For example, there are things like Clayman redirecting the hyena girls.
That one I like. I like that one. Yeah, it was like something that if you ask me like, oh, did you come up with that or did Sonny come up with that? I would say a mix of both. How to explain? I wrote that scene, but I didn't know how Sonny was going to draw it, and then she drew it like that, and I'm like, no, it's perfect. We're going to do it like that.
I think one thing I mentioned when I reviewed it, as I said, now that I've kind of seen, Clayman out in action, next I kind of want to see, well, who is Clayman? What's his family like? What's like? Are we going to get to see Are we going to get to see Clayman out of the suit in issue 1? Do you think?
Oh yeah, totally. If you look at my pin tweet, I do have like, and unfortunately, I have like a ton of the old art and even the comic pages, but I do have kind of out of him the suit, which is like Bobby Rob Radish's kind of thing before he became Clayman. And then and if people ask about like the armband idea, which is kind of like if people saw it before, that kind of makes him like turn into Clay. Yeah, no, again, that idea came from Ivan. Totally, 100%. And I'm going to write that in because it's too cool of an idea to let go. And I don't care what people say, I like it.
Yeah.
It's too cool.
You have
the cool factor. You're real cool. Sorry.
You're totally cool with the other creatives you work with giving you ideas that you that you just say, that's great. I'll let's get that in there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about kind of like your experience, I guess, funding things, like the financial side. So, you're using Patreon. You did your Indiegogo earlier. Did you create did you have to create a company for Clayman? Did you have to just teach yourself a little bit about, like balancing the books and all the taxes and IRS stuff?
I went through it all. I even made like I just basically like wrote it down. Wrote what they were going to take for the Indiegogo thing. And again, being honest, like surprisingly, considering how my printer was like, considering how late it took, he didn't take, I still paid him for some of the printing, but after that, like, he didn't even like take, unfortunately, the money, which I feel bad again, because like, again, I hate when people do free work for me. It's just like that feeling, in your heart. But like, if I can't force them to not like, give them money and stuff.
Yeah.
I did actually pay him for the stickers though, but like, and some other stuff. But Yeah, I imagine like I would just be down there with a cup of coffee and be like, yeah, I can. I'd be like, what's up, man? What is that? Annapolis? Wait, where is that? Not Minneapolis.
Annapolis, Maryland. Yeah, my local comic
Man.
shop hosts tons of meet and greets. So I guess COVID hit you while you were working on Clayman, but
Oh yeah,
things are starting to
totally.
open up. Yeah, have you looked into anything like conventions or I don't know, like artist meet and greets
Yeah, that's the
or
thing that sucks with the conventions wise because I'm like, I could possibly. I'm in New Jersey, so like at least to me, we're like bare bones in the convention field. But I live next to New York, so I can like if when Comic Con hits, me and my brother might try to go for that. He's also working on a comic himself, but he's kind of like more leeway on that because he's got a job and IRL responsibilities. That's more of a pleasure business than it is like business like how I'm doing mine.
yeah. Okay, I'm just really curious. I see what looks like an Avengers comic in the background. Is that
Hey,
is that
that one I got from New Jersey convention. I actually met one of the I'm trying to remember the guy's name. I met I think it was Clerks. I could be wrong, the animated one.
okay?
I met the guy with the goatee, like black hair. Yeah, it was like character had black hair, black goatee. So it was a while ago, and I wanted to get a picture with him and stuff, but yeah, like I had to pay for that, but he was totally chill about it. He was like, yeah, we were both totally chill about it. We were like, okay, I can't pay. It's like it's all right, man. Like if we do meet next time, you could. I hope you got the money. He's like, sure, yeah, and you get that going.
And anything else you've learned? Wait a second. Zaref says Kevin
Nah,
Smith. I think that's someone.
nah.
No,
I
no,
did
no.
not know. No, I kind of wish. I kind of wish. I know. I do wish I met Kevin Smith at least for a little bit. No, I think it was Brian O'Halloran was at the who played Dante in Clerks. Yeah, he was there.
Okay. So you've read Marvel comics. You've read. I take it you've probably read a lot of superhero comics. So
Yep.
maybe for the comic specific side of thing, like writing for TV is different than writing for
Oh man.
comics. So
Again, don't get
what
me
do you look
started
at?
on that.
Yeah. What do you look at for like? How do I make a story that fits in a comic book format specifically? Like how do you what have you learned about I don't know, like how to pace things, how much story do you or how many things do you cram onto one page, those sorts of questions.
Yeah, like a lot of that I asked my editor while we worked on it together, and he's like, I think it's again, to me it's like it's all trial and error, but for now it's like, yeah, my editor is like, oh, that's cool, you got good pacing, all that other stuff. Oh yeah, and I keep forgetting, but it's very very good that like before you make your issue, it's always good to make like I call it a pre-script, aka an outline. So let's say like, okay, this is going to happen from beginning to middle to end, that kind of stuff. Almost like how back in school where you got the board where it goes from up to down in terms of like stories and stuff. Yeah, you got your beginning, your climax, your ending, those kind of elements. Yeah, you should definitely follow that, but also like remember of course that like, oh, if you're following with the arc or whichever you want to call it, or following in with elements from that'll happen in future parts of your story, make sure that like, oh, you're inching up to that, you should probably mention it or probably like reveal it, or like, because if you forget it and then just reveal it out of the blue, yeah, people are not going to like that because that tends to happen a lot of times. And and again, be thankful you got an editor or assistant editor because they can catch that shit a mile
Yeah.
away and they can help you with that. And again, that's why I hate to mention it. That's why I freaking hate King, because apparently he likes to edit his own shit. Again, that's just my opinion. I feels like he edits his own shit, and then or like he just pays his editors, assistant editors, be like, hey, can you look the other way because I'm going to be writing all this. And be like, it's like whatever, you're paying me,
Know what the heck you're going to do before you start doing it.
Maybe. I know, yeah. And it's like, and I said like literally, it's like your editor, assistant editor is like, I don't know. It's like your stopgate. They look at your stuff, be like, okay, fix this. Okay, you're good to go. Now you can go. You paid your ticket, and then like you go through, and then you race to the finish line. But again, like some people are just like that's and when I go into that, be like, don't be afraid. And sometimes it's even then what they hate critiques. They think their first draft is good. I'm like, no, you gotta get a second opinion at least the second opinion, one editing job done at least. Like I ain't afraid to have me look it up, me possibly edit it later, have my editor do it, and then have my assistant editor do it. That's like 3 or 4 times they check it. But don't forget, that's what comics in general sometimes, before we even draw the drawing process, we have to look through it a couple times at least.
Yeah, I've gained a lot of appreciation for what editors do now that I've started reading comics again, because it feels like what their job is to do is to, maybe if the creator is going off into La La Land, the editor can help bring them back down to earth. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. I even said that before too. It's like Mercy and my assistant editor Drew, they ground me. They make sure I'm not like straying too far from it. It's like another example, I guess as a shitty joke, but it's like Loki. It's like we can't go with those time streams. It's got to stay in the loop.
Right.
Don't make a Nexus event. That's it. Don't do the Nexus event. We just got to keep the timeline going.
Yeah. Make sure we know who the character is before we see like a million alternate universe versions of the character.
Oh my god, yeah.
Things like that. Yeah.
Don't get me started on that either, too, man. It's like even then, I'm making Dimensional Warriors. That's a completely different universe, but still everyone is basically the same. A little bit of differences, but they're still the characters that we all know and love.
Right. Fantastic. So, are there any other crossovers apart from the Demon Hunter Raven crossover planned or being working on?
Right now, I have my own comic called like Dimensional Warriors, which I already said was like basically a crossover between my own characters and my brother's character. So it's almost like, imagine if I make Captain America 4 and Iron Man, and it's like, okay, this Avengers. So it's like cram it together. That's how it is.
All right.
And like I said, excluding the one character, a few characters that's in my brother's universe, that's him too. And kind of like with Nicholas, he's kind of my co-writer. So I usually I make the base script, he checks it out to make sure I'm writing his character correctly and other characters that belong to him correctly.
Yeah. So who's your brother's character?
My brother's character is Ruiner. He's this like 10-foot tall kind of giant that's kind of like explain. To me, it's like if Master Chief and Kenshiro had a baby, that's kind of like the vibe I get from him.
Nice.
Yeah. He's got the metallic suit, he's got the ragged cloak. It was like, again, it's really such a shame because like we had a really good artist going for him, but the poor guy like died, I think, of heart failure in his country. So it was like it was a shame. I still keep the art though in his memory, and I do hope that like one day once he gets back into it, like he can find an artist that can kind of replicate his style. Yeah. So like going in all that other stuff.
Okay, but is that kind of like maybe is that something we can look forward to pretty soon, or is that maybe like something that is
definitely something because like something in the future, because the way my brother's mentality works, at least in his writing, is that like, look, he puts a lot of stuff forward. If I try to force him to do it, he's not going to do it. Yeah, because like I tried to before, and then he was like, oh, I'm not going to do this anymore. So like I gotta like I'm not saying I'm doing it, but like. And that's another thing why, like, if people ask, if Dimensional Wars has a future, it does. I'm just doing a lot of art promos with that because, like I said, I need to wait till, like, my bro pushes forward his comic, and then I could get at least an ideal of what I can go forward in with this character.
Yeah. So for now, we're mostly looking forward to the missed shot for Clayman One Shot, and maybe issue 1. Do you have a timeline for it? Maybe like next year, next couple years?
I hope it's next year. Yeah. Like the way that sometimes like if Ivan didn't have all those projects and worked on my thing, he probably could crank out a page every at least less than a week, I would say, in terms of his time. And if like he had nothing to do and just like makes my comic after a comic page after page and all that.
Neato. Where can people follow Ivan, by the way? Do you recall his Twitter handle, by the way?
Yeah, Ivan's Twitter handle. Well, yeah, if going with his full Twitter handle, it's just Ivan. Let's see, Fiorelli Ivan. So that's like F, like capital FIORELLILVIN. So it's kind of like it's kind of like his last name and then his first name jumbled together. Like
Okay,
that's his Twitter handle name.
I'll try to bring it up on my end.
Yeah, sure.
So, what about Ivan's style did you clicked with you? What made you say, this works, this is the right look?
I think because of how dynamic it is and how he can make he can go simple or he can go complex, especially with his Gundam designs like he's made, which I was like, how do you make all it's like how do you guys obviously to him I was like again, I'm like, how do you make such simple stuff, but also complex drawings at the same time? And he's like, hey, I can do it. Fan fiction crossovers. I've actually written a few fan fiction crossovers. I actually did it to my friend, what was her name? Jen, I think, with her comic. And she liked it. I was surprised. Because to me personally, I suck at writing just normal writing, like I get what would you call literature writing. I can do like comic script format writing, kind of almost like a pro. But yeah, I suck at and even like when someone like was reading it, they were like, yeah, I could kind of see like you write a comic book, and I'm like, yeah, because I do,
right?
I do write a comic, because it's like if they the best compliment I got out of my literature writing is like you really know how to write a character. Character descriptions are good for me, but like when I actually have characters talking, at least on their end, they said, "Oh, that's really, really good," and I'm like, "Really?" Like, I'm always like on the middle end of like, am I putting too much or too little dialogue in with my character interactions? Yeah. Am I even making character interactions right? But at the back of my head, I'm always like, I enjoy when I make characters interact with each other, And people keep forgetting, you gotta sometimes be careful because I've seen like way too many writers think that they get away with too much dialogue.
Oh yeah.
And especially I saw that one, I can't remember, it was like this girl, she was in this party, whatever. There was like lines and lines of dialogue.
12 speech balloons, yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, oh my God, what is wrong with you? And again, I said, and I talked to again my editors, I'm like, if I write for this long, it's like, please beat me with a stick. I don't care. But they're like, yeah, no, we'll come to it if it's too long. So I'm like, okay. But and that's another thing too that like I also make clear, because like I'm just the writer concept guy, but I tell people it's like, please give respect to these artists, because sometimes you give us too much credit. Give them credit. Give them more credit, because like to me they make at least like 50-60% of the comic.
Yeah.
I mean, there's writers, the editors, the colorists, if they're just doing the line art, and the letterer, all that other stuff. But man, like these guys are like, they're most of what makes a comic good. You know,
you're appreciative of what they can, like a good artist can make or break a good script.
Exactly. Yeah. And technically that too, you could say that with a writer, like, because believe me, I have been with that with some. What was it? I read this comic. What was it called? Beef Bros, where the art was fantastic and the lettering was fantastic, but the story writing was like, I don't know. It's just not biting for me. I don't really. I like the Bros. They're cool, but everyone else is like, I don't really care for these. I don't really care for these characters. Maybe if there was more like chillax and more cool bro moments with the beef bros, then yeah. But then it's kind of went with this political socialist stuff, and I'm like, really? I don't think it works with this kind of world and characters,
Yeah. What can you tell us about issue 1? So you've mentioned you've worked on the first several issues. What kind of things can we expect to see? Will Clayman have like an enemy emerge who he's gonna have to face down? Yeah.
I think that was like when I made. I think issue 6 is kind of the reveal of his first major supervillain, which is like the Black Raccoon, which is kind of like this. It was once a Japanese like philanthropist. Well, that was more of his cover, but now he and his bunch of goons are a bunch of Japanese yakuza that like Clay has the face down. There's also a really cool moment I took inspiration from when almost like with Spider-Man's day when going into. I wanted to kind of do a Spider-Man starting out, so it kind of goes in the wrestling scene, fights kind of like a bunch of other like impressive Olympic people, almost like in a Bonesaw-esque fight, which I was like, I gotta put something like that in. That's too cool again, but it's more in the future, so it's like really, really cool, And then the first couple issues, it starts with like it kind of like is the buildup of like his costume, and then more people getting mutated, that kind of stuff. Like I think around issue 3 is when he fights. No, issue 2 is when he fights his first mutant. Issue 3 is like kind of his first reveal to the world, at least of Vitorica, and now the citizens' reaction to him. And then I think issue 4 is when the costume is fully completed. We get like the whole makeshift outfit and the mask. The mask he made himself. So that'll be interesting. And then I think what issue 7 is like, don't want to spoil it, but something really major happens to Clay, and it kind of like everything goes topsy-turvy. And then the second arc will be more interesting. And I think people will like another shift to his costume once I introduce the second arc of it. And again, I think people will really like it. Even if like I said, I'm hopefully people will like the first arc, and they'll love the second arc when it comes out.
And I feel like that just I've heard like this little debate, like should you start right off the bat, hitting all cylinders, or the slow burn. And what I like about Clay is it sounds like you want people to know Clay a little bit. You start like throwing things at him a bit, right? I call it like in superhero comics, it'd be just like the issue where Spider-Man stops a couple bank robbers and saves a few kids, right? And those kind of issues can really help just they let you know that Spider-Man has what for him are normal days, and then when Spider-Man gets caught up in like the kooky, alternate planet alien fight things, then this is a normal guy, and this is an unusual thing for him. We kind of need to know that Clay's a normal guy too.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. Is that one Reality Evolution is the best? Yeah, Reality is like I don't. I'll say it like this. He's a major villain that I didn't think I would reveal till like a while, but I'm like, oh, what if I introduce him in the beginning issue? And I put out I put out the first 5 pages out, and you do see him, and I'm happy that people like him. But there's still that mystery factor of like, okay, how relevant is he going to be as a villain? Is he going to be uber powerful, or is he going to be kind of weak? Is he just kind of like the man behind the scenes? Those kind of questions. And I'm like, yeah, that's what I want people to know. Obviously, I can't reveal it, because if I do, that's basically why are people going to read my comic anyways? They already know what's going to happen by the end,
Yeah. I think I saw some of the concept art for him. You use Newgrounds to post art and
I'm just starting to put art on Newgrounds. I'm hoping and kind of praying that like the Newgrounds art community will see, and then they'll get interested. I mean, I give credit where credit's due, but I hope that they see us be like, oh, cool, because I know that Newgrounds has an amazing community of artists and comic creators. So again, I'm hoping in the future they'll look my way and they'll support me, that kind of thing. But don't want to force it, just want to kind of slow burn grind if
Yeah.
possible.
So let's see. I think I've touched on most of the big questions I had from reading the one shot. So I guess, is there anything you want to talk about the future of Clayman, or things you've learned making Clayman that you think would be helpful to creatives or maybe to future fans of Clayman?
I think obviously a few basic lessons would be like, know your budget, know how much you're spending. It's like, only, I would say like this, if you have to pay out of pocket, that's fine, but be sure that money goes to food, all bills, all the other stuff. Don't force yourself to pay for a comic that maybe they're like, oh, it's a cool fun factor, oh, keep that in, but you're still human. You still got to pay for all that IRL stuff,
Yeah.
It happens, but you got to happen, In terms of it, it's like, if you find the artist you feel is going to do your comic, go for it. No matter how popular they are or what, they'll listen to you, because they're just like we're human. They got to put money and food on the table too. So again, don't be afraid to ask them.
Yeah. It's almost like you take an extremely practical approach to this, right? I think some creatives, maybe I have this tendency, we tend to look at art. Oh, it's art. It's got to be intellectual,
majestic, godly.
Right? Yeah. It's the Rembrandt painting, right? And you almost have just like this. Yeah, just ask some people for help. Ask some people if they could work for you. You have a very direct go looking for people who work on it, and just pay attention to the details. I appreciate that, because what you're identifying is that there's a straightforward element to doing creative work. Yeah.
Unless it doesn't go to my budget, or even then, this is just a typical artist between artist and commissioner kind of thing. If it doesn't work to your budget, you can always just say politely, oh, I can't afford this yet, or oh, I'm sorry, it doesn't fit my budget. They won't be mad at you over that yet, because too many people get too, like we discussed, too many people get too scared over seeing how many followers this guy's got, and then oh, it doesn't work for them. I have this guy, what is the guy named Eric Martin, dude. He's got 12, almost 13,000 followers, and I got a whole bunch of art. I paid he had a bunch of $20, $50 art piece on coffee that I paid for. So again, it's not he's not a bad guy. Yeah, I was a little nervous, trying to look for his rules and stuff. But hey, that's how it goes. They have rules. Some of them have different rules on how they put out commissions. I'm look, it's not that hard. Just read through it, and if you mess up, you just talk to them, and then get it sorted out. Because you'd be surprised how easy it is that when the politeness comes, they'll take it easier on you.
Yeah.
On okay, here, you got it fixed. We're all good now. And sometimes too, it's what is it? I have my good friend Mai. We actually signed a contract together in terms of commissions. I'm hey, it's all good. I just signed my name and bam, got the commission. We're all done.
Right. Just pay attention to what the artists, because the artists are usually they have their own set of what they are and aren't willing to draw. They might have different skill sets or things they're comfortable with. You just basically right. Just look at what they're doing. Yeah, and pay attention. Be polite. Never underestimate the importance of politeness, and pay attention to the details. Yeah. So, what this is semi-related. So your Twitter is Clay's Comics and Games. So
yeah, because I had to change it from so interesting story with that. Because Twitter fucked up my notifications on my other account, which was the original Claylix account, so I had to change that to a promo account, and now I'm using basically my second account as my main account.
Okay.
And then people got worried today because they said I got my second DMCA strike over some BS, and they're like, Twitter, what are you going to do? Stop this, Because if I go down, I'm at least I got the promo account, but I'm probably going to make another account, and that'll be my main account because, like I said, I can't use the promo account because the notifications are fucked up,
Yeah.
That's on Twitter's thing, not on my thing, It sucks, but it is what it is,
I've had some Twitter issues myself.
Over
goofy memes and things. Yeah. So it almost makes sense where if you have to have a personal account, like make your own little personal account, right, where you can just do memes or whatever. But I do think it makes a lot of sense to have a professional account where the account is there for you to do business on and promote your stuff,
Yeah.
right? And maybe if you have that saves you from the temptation of, oh, I'm gonna post political memes on my comic account. Probably not the best place for it, right?
Yeah.
So do you
Even
do you let's plays or gaming at all?
let's see. Yeah, that's the thing too that I was gonna say too. That like I was a Twitch streamer first before I've been streaming for almost 10 years actually.
Wow.
So I was 16. So I've been I actually think some of my streaming actually helped with my comic book stuff. Like in terms, I think at least in terms of marketing and like how to handle things on a at least a semi professional level. You know, I keep saying that like if my Twitch got more popular and there's like more con people came in, then that'd be the best of both worlds because then I can at least people be like I can be related to the gamers and to the comic people.
Yeah, cross promotion. Yeah,
exactly.
Are there any other kind of like side creative projects or business ventures you do to support yourself? I've noticed a lot of creatives have to do more than one thing to make it work, right? Like you have you don't have all your eggs in one basket.
Yeah. I do let's see, I still have a YouTube, but it's like I kind of like I'm using that mainly for gaming content. It's like it's usually sometimes it's hard for me to do more strict edited content. Well, I can't do edited content because my editing program is like use up 100% of my CPU, and I have to like it's like I have to like get a new computer with a stronger CPU to deal with this, and then and so mainly I just stick to Twitch. Hopefully, like if I get enough donations, I could get like save up for a new computer and all that other stuff. And then like I think people say too also is like my professionalism is like, oh, you get these donations, but you don't unless you say it yourself. Yeah, you're not using it on yourself. You're already putting it out to something else. I'm like, yeah, because it's kind of more of a professional business sense like that. You take the money, either put it away for use it later or use it right away to what you're going to do with it. Yeah. Because too many people like take the money and run. And I hate that.
Right. Yeah, especially if there's some horror stories about like the comic got funded 4 years ago and no one ever hears anything about it ever again. Yeah. Okay, so you've successfully funded and printed and shipped your one shot. The Kickstarter, people can look forward to that this fall. So I would recommend following you on Patreon and Twitter and YouTube for updates about that. Are there any like closing thoughts that you want to share with us about Clayman and your working process?
I think in terms of Clayman and my working progress, it's not only helped me evolve as a writer, but sometimes I think as a person too, and sometimes I even feel like I look up to Clay as a positive figure. I do hope that in the future, like people could see him as possibly even a role model to help out and strive to be like, you can be positive even for the thick and thin of things,
That's really neat. So I'm really eager to see the direction Clayman story goes in the first main issues. Yeah. Do you call the one shot issue 0, or is it you just go? Does it just
I
go
just
by
call
one
it one shot? I just call it Clayman one shot.
Neato. Oh, let's see here. Mrs. H says comic books on Twitch.
Yeah, I keep forgetting too. I kind of do a podcast thing on Twitch every Tuesday. I kind of like my comic book day. So like to try to garner any possible comic book fans audiences to there, just because like, hey, I always wanted to try it. And so I did it a couple times a day and, for the past few weeks every Tuesday. And, people like the idea. So I just kept going with it,
Yeah, it makes sense. Like every platform has its own audience of people, so it's sort of like
Yeah.
you're thoughtful about. Let's try to find some people who'd be interested in my stuff over there. Zerift is giving us a smiley emoji, and Star Storyteller is saying, "Hey, we have finished discussing the Clayman one shot. You can read it on Topos.io, and the creator Claylex. I have linked to his Twitter and Patreon in the description below. So for the immediate future, it's going to be the myth shot for the myth shot for Clayman one shot, and then maybe next year we'll be looking forward to Clayman issue 1. Is that right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I just want to speak for myself and say that I think that Claylex is a very fun creator. There are a few creators who it's like every time they post, you say, yes, this is so cool. I can't wait to retweet this. So I'd highly encourage you guys to follow Claylex for updates. And if you have time, it's free. Go read the Clayman one shot, get a feel for the character, and just keep an ear out for updates on the Kickstarter coming this fall. So thank you, Claylex. Do you want to leave anybody with some closing words?
Yeah, like I said, just strive to be positive. If you see the negative, try to block it out as much as you can. If you draw my comics, thank you very much. To anyone who paid me to keep going with this, again, thank you very much. And again, that's about it.
Fantastic. Well, I've really enjoyed the first issue. I highly recommend for you guys to go check it out. And I will be following this. And as I get more of the issues as they come out, you can expect more reviews on this channel. So thank you for joining me for Claylex, and thanks for everybody who joined us in the chat. I love you guys. We'll catch you later.
Bye-bye.